You can think of temperament as the early appearing biological tendencies that humans have, and that is what interacts with environmental factors to produce what we would call personality. So you can think of the sorts of things like, is somebody exposed to a broad range of cultural opportunities? Is somebody exposed to a place where they have many responsibilities? Or are they living in a place where perhaps they are alone, or a place where there's many social opportunities for them? So it's those sorts of environmental kind of factors that interact with these temperamental factors to work together to yield what we would call personality. Physical space can play a great role in determining the environment in which we grow up. If you live in a rural environment versus an urban environment, that may change the sorts of opportunities that you get. It may change the sorts of roles that you have and the responsibilities. It may change the opportunities for exposure to new ideas or new arts or new cultures and so on. Also, at a broader scale, the country in which you grow up may also determine the sorts of cultural norms to which you're exposed. And at a narrower level, your physical space, the space in which you live, where you work, those sorts of things may determine the social interactions you have, or again, the type of work you do, or just the levels of stimulation you have. And all of those things are components of the environment that can essentially end up shaping your personality partially. It's important to remember that environments aren't things that just happen to us. We choose our environments that allow us to express and reflect our personalities. So we might choose them in terms of going to a certain place. Some people are more drawn to a place, say, like a library versus a cafe. But also we create these places ourselves. So we may craft a physical space to help us, again, reflect and express our personalities. An introvert will perhaps create their bedroom space where they can sit and read books alone, a comfortable chair, a light above it, books nearby, versus someone like an extrovert who might create a place that's better suited for entertaining. Again, these can shape the activities that are suited to the personality. When you go into somebody's space, it's really important to understand that there are a number of different ways they can relate to that space. So one of the ways they relate is by deliberately telling others about their goals, their attitudes, their values, what I call identity claims. You know, we see these in many contexts. So one context we see those is, for example, the t-shirts people wear, maybe with their college on it, or the bumper stickers, or the little quotes they have at the bottom of their email. If you look for those gives you a sign into somebody's sort of deliberate things, the things they want others to know about themselves. And typically these aren't disingenuous things, these are deliberate things they want. They may perhaps put a scientist that they greatly value, and that will tell you something about their values. If they have a picture of Einstein, it tells you something different than if they have a picture of, say, Mother Teresa. One of the things I often caution people about is not trying to draw too many conclusions from a single object, because if you think about it, there are many different reasons why we might have a single object in our space. So if we have, say, for example, you can imagine a sort of a blue plastic crocodile sitting on the coffee table, and you think, well, there are many different reasons how that got there. It could be there because it's related to your name or related to your occupation, or maybe you're just a sort of playful person, or maybe you're an artist. So in order to sort of disambiguate those different possibilities, you look for other clues in the space. So that's why I always tell people when they're sort of snooping around somebody's space, look for these broader themes. Just as if you meet somebody and they do one action, you have to be careful about interpreting that action. It's much more useful if you want to learn about them to see a whole stream of actions. So sort of understanding how people connect to those spaces can let us work back to the sorts of feelings, thoughts, and attitudes that person has, which are, of course, the key to their personality. I think the relationship between psychology and architecture is potentially a really interesting one. To be frank, it's one that's been unexplored. So many architects really do think carefully and in many cases with great insight about the sorts of psychological states they want to create in the people who occupy those spaces. They might want to make it a space which is good for creativity, or good for a family getting together, or for being very highly productive or relaxing, or who knows what. They do think about those spaces, and many of them with great insight are able to create a space that creates the desired psychological state. Take an example. So if you go to a cafe, we all go to a cafe, I'll grab everyone and say, let's go to this cafe, tell me where the first person will sit who comes in. And we would all point to the same chair. We'd point to the chair with its back against the wall, facing out, facing into the room, probably facing towards the window and the door. So these processes are very strong, but they're so natural to us that we as humans don't notice them. And there hasn't been a lot of systematic research on these, certainly not within the field of architecture. The problem is they're just using their intuition. And that's really the challenge and opportunity we have as psychologists, is to be able to provide them with the information that would help them solve that sort of problem. So for example, we can help them with the specific findings. So what do we know about the curvature of walls and the height of ceilings and the color of things in your environment? How do those really impact somebody's psychological state? And the other way we can help them, which is I think equally important, is essentially trying to bring a systematic research angle to this, such that they can, instead of just essentially using their intuition, they can inform their practice by the discipline, the science of psychology.